Hello friends, this is Carrie from Stamp with CT, and it is time for our May stamp class. Super excited to have you here with us for May stamp class, which is called Unbounded Beauty. Now this is a suite from the brand new annual catalog from Stampin Up, and it is a mega suite, which just means that there's a little bit extra in this suite. We have 2 stamp die bundles, which makes it even more fun to create with these products. I'm going to look right quick and find this suite in the catalog, and so I can tell you what page it is. We are over here. Page 52 shows lots of different samples, absolutely gorgeous samples. And then as you turn the page, you see the components to the suite. Now today I'm going to show you the stamp die bundles, the paper, and then we're going to use some in-color embellishments that coordinate really well with this paper. There is some glimmer paper in this suite as well. We're going to use just a little bit of that, get a little sampling of that as well. So if you registered for the class and got your packet, go ahead and pull that out. If you have the new in-color ink pads, you'll want those as well. If not, you're going to be able to choose from your collection something that's close to those colors, or just black ink will work perfectly fine. So we will start with the beautiful Designer Series paper, Unbounded Love. Oops, I think I skipped a page there. This is such pretty paper. All those beautiful new in colors. Peach Pie, Pretty in Pink, Summer Splash. I'm still learning them. Petunia Pop, Shy Shamrock, and there's some other colors in this Designer Series paper as well. Just so lovely. I do have Oliver at my feet, just in case you're wondering. I'm kind of on my own today to do this class. Dale is a little bit under the weather, so Oliver is here for moral support for Mama. And we're going to just have some fun, very casually crafting in our class today. We are using this beautiful suite of products, and we're making 5 cards. You guys get a bonus card this month because I really wanted to focus a project for each of the different new in colors. I thought that would be something fun, and I always like keeping you guys on your toes. So let's take a look at the stamp die bundles in this suite. So Flowers of Beauty is a really pretty image stamp set, and this one is photopolymer, as is the sentiment set as well. So sometimes those come in red rubber. Stampin' Up always chooses which the better image that we're going to get. That's how they choose which way they will produce the stamp, whether it's red rubber or photopolymer. So both these sets are photopolymer. We did this little resource tool, this visual, for the launch party. And if this is something that's helpful for you to see the dies more in action rather than just seeing the physical die, let me know if you would prefer to see the physical die as well, or instead, let me know that too. Just give us that feedback. I just thought this was a really cool way to show you what those dies actually do. So you can see so many of these components stand on their own, but of course you have the stamps that coordinate with it. So you just have options with that. And you'll see some of these in use today. And then we also have Unbounded Love, which this die set is just amazing. a great addition to any craft room because, again, so many options for sentiments. You can go with something very simple, or you can go with something a little bit more fancy, a little bit more intricate. Things layer, just so much fun to use this set. Some of them emboss the edges as you die cut. So again, let me know if this is a good visual for you. Of course, it coordinates with the stamp set, but it also is going to work so well with other sentiments that you already have in your collection and just kind of freshen up the stamps that you have in your collection. I always love that. We're going to be working with a couple of the new embossing folders from this catalog as well. I had not ordered yet the swirly embossing folder when I designed this class, but we do have eyelet, which I'll bring that a little closer so you can see the pattern that you get with eyelet. Very, very versatile. I love this embossing folder. You're going to see it a lot. And then this one, and I like to put, use my P-Touch label printer to put the names there, the dotted circles. And again, a very unique look. This is a very large embossing folder also. So this is something different we're seeing in this catalog. I was a little bit surprised when I did order this one early on in the demonstrator pre-order, but it works really well. And it just gives you a little bit more room. Hopefully that pattern will kind of show up. So you can either put a bigger piece of paper or move it around a little bit. Really like that. And then this one I did get So Swirly. Yes, So Swirly is the name of it. I got it after I designed this class, but you'll be seeing us use this one as well. But those are the 3 new embossing folders that I have from this catalog and thought they were really cool. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into our first project. And this one is going to be featuring Summer Splash. I'm hoping that I will finally quit calling it Seaside Spray. We had a blue called Seaside Spray. Gosh, it's been a couple years ago. Grab your packet. This is what it looks like. All 5 projects. Everything die cut for you, embossed for you. You're just going to need to substitute some greetings if you don't have what I'm using. And then also your inks and adhesives. So as you're working with the packet, be sure to be careful as you unpack it to make sure you don't lose any little bits. We try really hard to package things up for you to where it'll arrive to you ready to go, no problems. I always kind of like to get everything organized. What I'm going to do, and you may want to do this as well, is grab my glue dots, and there's a little bitty flower that was cut from the glimmer paper in Petunia Pop. I'm going to go ahead and stick it on a glue dot so that as I'm working on this project, I don't lose it. I'm just going to put it right there, set it aside. Kind of get organized here. Going to be just kind of a relaxed attitude today as we craft. These are fairly simple projects, but I wanted to feature these colors and this paper and just really share the fun of this suite with you. Let's go ahead and put in our inside panel. I've got a train. Y'all know we always invite the train to our videos, right? But today, of course, I pre-record this for the stamp class, but it is Friday afternoon, and there has been a train sitting outside for at least 30-45 minutes. I kind of waited thinking, oh, it will pass, but no, it's just going to sit there. So crafting cannot wait for a train. We've got to get going here. But if you hear it rumbling in the background, I'm sorry. That's just our life, isn't it? So here you've got that beautiful embossing done. on the basic white cardstock. Just love the way that shows up in the background. And we're going to add this strip of Designer Series paper. You want to add a little bit more adhesive than you typically would use. Boy, he's really going to town with that train whistle, isn't he? Oh, goodness. Anyway, because you have that piece embossed, a little bit more adhesive than you would typically use. And when I add something like this, I always like to leave a little border on the side, but if you prefer it butted right up against the edge of the white piece, that's okay too. You do you. Y'all let me know what you think of that embossing folder. I think Eyelet is going to be a real favorite of mine. Same thing again here, a little bit more glue than I would typically use. So I want to make sure that the areas that do meet with my card base adhere nicely. So look how easy this card is, y'all, but I was really happy with it. Such a beautiful color. So we'll let that dry for just a second, and I'll bring this up and show you right quick. We're just going to stamp the beautiful happy birthday, add our flower, and then a little piece of the ribbon. Of course, you could add a bow. Those that receive the packet, we put plenty of adhesive in there if you want to do it as a bow. I mean, adhesive. Plenty of ribbon is in there if you want to do it as a bow. Alrighty. And I'll tell you, this is one of my absolute favorite dies in this set. I think this is just such a beautiful little piece for a sentiment. And the happy birthday is a great stamp. I know that we've used this a couple of times now, and I personally prefer it to be kind of squared up and, you know, happy birthday. Dale likes to, I just stuck my finger in the ink pad. Dale likes to have it askew just a little bit. Whatever you like is what you're going to want to do. So I'll do it Dale's way, just to give some little bit of versatility there. And so that means I may change a little bit the way that I put my ribbon and embellishment on, since I stamped it a little bit differently over to the side a bit. Oops. So of course we have to have some Stampin' Dimensionals, right? One of the reasons I joined Stampin' Up was to get a discount on these. And to this day, more than 11 years later, I know that that was a great decision. Thinking back of how much money I have saved on dimensionals over the years, since we do like to really use them a lot. All right, we'll put our little happy birthday sentiment on. That's about where it is on my other project. And I don't know that I brought my basket in with my ribbon, but that shows you the colors of the ribbon. And then these are the gems we're going to be using, the in color gems that have a sparkle to them, because we want a little bit of shine. The ones that actually coordinate with this suite are the more the matte dots. Let me make sure, because you know, Summer Splash and Shy Shamrock, unless I have them right together, they look a lot alike, you guys. And I'm just going to make a little knot right quick to add to this project. This was one of the suites that we were able to pre-order as demonstrators, so I've had this sweet in my hands for a while and have really made quite a few projects, some swaps with it. Really enjoyed using it. So what I've decided to do, this worked really well when we did Celebration. I've decided that in CT's Craft and Connect group, what I will do is when we use some products for stamp class, and I've got several samples to share with you, I will just make an album in CT's Craft and Connect Facebook group right where you're watching this video. More than likely, you may be watching it on YouTube as well. So if you are watching it on YouTube, feel free to pop over there to CT's Craft and Connect Facebook group and join us there. But that's where I'm going to put the album so that I can share with you projects with this suite. I just think that that's a good home for that. And I think on this one, because of the way I stamped it, well, I don't know. I think we will. We'll put the flower on this side this time. So then I also did come in with one of the little sparkly gems. Sorry, I've got a glue dot stuck to my finger. Let me get that hitchhiker off. And I just came in with that gem and stuck that right in the center of the flower, but you could certainly embellish it other ways if you wanted to. Just going to take one of the smaller ones. And get up underneath there. And I'm using Summer Splash. Popping that right on the flower. And that will give us project number 1. Turned out pretty cute. A little bit different than our sample, but that's okay because we have options. Okay. Let's move on to our next project that's going to feature Petunia Pop. And again, be careful when you're unpacking your envelope that you don't lose any of the little pieces. This one I don't think has any, small pieces, but just be careful as you do that so that you get everything out of your envelope. And of course, your card base is already scored for you. If you have a favorite new in color, I would love to know what it is. Now here again, we used an embossing folder. But first, let's go ahead and put this inside panel in. If you like to stamp on your inside panels, do that before you glue it down. That's a pro tip for you. Because sure enough, if you glue it down first, that's when you stamp something wonky, right? Alrighty. So this is with the dot embossing folder with a piece of designer series paper. I just love the effect that we got with this. So you'll kind of have to decide how you want to place that on your project, which way you want that to go. And then I'll bring this one up here. And then we have just that piece of designer series paper across the bottom there. So kind of take a look at how your piece of designer series paper, which way you like it better. To really bring that color out. I think I'm going to go this way. And I think that I'm going to go ahead and adhere this piece on first. We try to cut things as close as we can, but sometimes it's off by just a little bit. So if you need to trim it up a tiny bit, you can. Oops. Didn't intend to come down that far with that piece. Yeah, this one looks like maybe it could be trimmed a tiny bit. And you may want to use a piece of grid paper. I think that's what I'm going to do to make sure I get this lined up well. Since I don't have Dale with me today to make sure everything's lined up, I'll do it that way. I've got a dimensional stuck to my grid paper. That's going to bug me. Let me get him out of there. Wonder how that happened. Sorry if I got my head in the camera. So that one may be up just a tiny bit more than what it is on my other sample. I think it is. Not too bad though. That does not look straight to me. It's not straight. Give me just a second here. I think that the dots are throwing my eyes off, kind of giving an optical illusion. Let me put that on my grid paper one more time. And bring it a little closer. It's pretty straight. I think it's just those dots giving me an optical illusion. All right. A little more glue than usual to make sure that those fibers make contact with our card front. I think I may need to get a new glue. I love that we got these new embossing folders with this catalog. It is amazing what embossing a piece of cardstock or designer series paper can do to really elevate your project. Such a quick and easy way and inexpensive way to kind of step it up a little bit. Now, when we created this card, Dale added the ribbon like that. That is just not me, but I wanted you to see that option, and that's one of the reasons that I love having him help me when we're designing from time to time, because he does bring a different aesthetic to things. I probably will do my ribbon a little bit differently, but again, you're going to have plenty of ribbon, so you do what makes you happy. We're going to stamp our greeting with Petunia Pop. I love this color. I know you're not supposed to have favorites, but this is my favorite. See how I do with my stamping. Without trying to get my head in the camera. I'm not too shabby. I think we're going to go with that. May all your wishes come true. That's a sweet sentiment. Give me just a second to move this over. I like to, as we're working, put my stamp over on my chamois, and it kind of self-cleans it that way. Then you can just rub it a tiny bit. That ink does not dry on your stamp. You just rub it a tiny bit, and then you're ready to go. I'm running out of room, y'all. Trying to stay organized. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is just put a bow on. But again, whatever you like. I know we included lots of this ribbon for you because Dale did use that big swoosh. I guess that's a good word for it, right? Swoosh. I'm just going to tie my bow. But either way works. And I do like working from the bolt. And when I tie bows, I make bows with just big loops And I'm making this more difficult than it has to be. My fingers are old and arthritic. When a nurse gives lots of shots in her career, that's what happens. It affects her crafting. So you can see, this is just a wonky bow, doesn't match. That's a little bit twisted, but I just go with that and I get my bow made, and then I zhuzh it. I get it more to the size that I want, but I work from the bolt, trying to make sure I don't cut off a piece of ribbon that's way too short to create the bow I want. That is going to bug me. Gonna have to do it again. Is this third try or fourth try? But I always make my bow a little bit bigger. Okay, let's go for 87th try. I always make my bow a little bit bigger than what I know I'm gonna need, so that I have room to work with it. I may have twisted that again. We're gonna make it work though. And I know a lot of people struggle with bow making. I typically don't. I just think my hands are tired today. There we go. But just work with it. Go back and forth. Make your loops bigger, smaller. Kind of wait till you see that those two sides are equal. And then one of my favorite tricks, and it's just kind of intuitively what I do, is pull those tails down together so that when I snip, I just snip one time and trim both tails. And that way, my tails are about the same length most of the time. Now that's a pretty little bow. That took a little work, didn't it? But it turned out to be a pretty little bow. So that's that Petunia Pop ribbon. Love it. And Stampin' Up! Does usually have the different in-color ribbons each time. And sometimes I love the ribbon and sometimes not so much. This one, I absolutely love it. I think it's a beautiful ribbon. And it is easy to work with, even though I made it look like it wasn't. That was all user error, or USER error, as my son would say. So we'll put a couple of dimensionals on here to add our greeting. I think this makes a beautiful card. Again, pretty simple and straightforward. But sometimes we kind of get caught up with making things fancy and making things harder than they have to be. The paper from Stampin' Up!, our designer series papers, are just so gorgeous. Let them do the work for you. Okay. And that may even come over to this side of the card this time. Let me take a closer look at this. We'll do that same thing, because I think I did move up just a tiny bit. Put it right about there. And I'm going to look at this upside down to see if that's somewhat straight. After we get done making videos, I always take a look at the projects again and zhuzh them if I need to, because with that camera up above, it's kind of hard to get my placement sometimes. So if you ever are looking at it thinking, woo, she is way off, I do try to take a look at it when I get all done. So we'll add our bow up there. Actually, may add the bow like this. And then that way, I can come in with a rhinestone on that side, or one of these little gems. Maybe a big one. put it over there. Okay. So a little bit different look to it just because of my placement. I like them both. Let me know what you think. And we'll move on to the next project. So I'm excited to try having that album in CT's Craft and Connect group as a place for some of these projects to land. And in addition to me putting the projects there from class and the other samples that I have, I'd love for you to add any projects that you create as well. It is very easy to go to the album either through the feed of the group, or across the top there's a little banner that says album, and then you can go to that album and you can add a picture, you can add a little caption, say that it's created by you. You can even type in there products that you used with it if you want to. I just think that would be a fun resource. We'll see how it goes. Okay, this one is our Pretty in Pink sample, and you'll notice this is a monochromatic, just pink and white. Sometimes that's fun, just to really utilize that color and white. That's what we did with the Petunia Pop as well. So let's work on this one. But here we have a piece of white backing this paper, and I'll show you. In my design process, I kind of thought about putting a full piece 5 1/4 by 4 of designer series paper on the pink cardstock, on the Pretty in Pink cardstock, and then I kind of mixed it up a little bit by putting the white panel. I think it just really draws your eye more. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Be careful unpacking your envelope. And we'll take a look at all the pieces that we have for in here. So you do have a couple pieces of basic white. It feels like I have 3, which I shouldn't. You may have gotten a bonus. Hope I didn't short someone. If I did, I'm sorry. All right, so we've got our 2 pieces that are exactly the same size. Let me double check and make sure. Yes, they are. So one of them's our inside panel. One is for the outside to mat our piece of designer series paper. Let me fold our card base. Be sure to burnish. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So first, we're going to bring this piece of designer series paper, and I'll show you how pretty it is just on the card base. But then watch what happens when you add the piece of white between the card base and the designer series paper. I just think that's so awesome how it pulls the colors differently. So let's try that again, and I'll show you with our sample. Either way is beautiful. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. Alrighty, we'll adhere our inside panel. And then again, stamp or use some scraps of DSP. Decorate that inside if you like to do that. And then we will add our designer series paper here. Either side would work for this project. And remember that you always have creative license when doing classes and events with me. We love it when people do alternatives to the projects that we design. I love to see the products used in different ways. So again, you can add your project to that album. A lot of times people will message or text me a picture of a project that they do, especially after a class or event. That always just makes me so happy. I love inspiring other people. That is a big why for me of why I love being a demonstrator. makes me happy when somebody wants to recreate something that I've designed and shared. Designed and shared. This pretty and pink color was in our product line in the past, prior to me being a demonstrator. I know a lot of people were so excited it was back, and I can see why. It's a beautiful pink. Okay. Now we are ready. Uh-oh, did I scoot that? Nope. We're ready to add these little bits, and here you get an idea of how gorgeous. I think a little piece fell out from die cutting process. So gorgeous. And I just layered those up on there and put my sentiment over it. I really like to leave these pieces loose. I don't glue them down in their entirety. I like to use glue dots to add those. But if you feel more comfortable with it adhered down better, that's just fine. And then that way I can kind of cover up the glue dot. If it's showing a little bit behind the leaves and foliage, then I can cover it up with my sentiment piece. But you can kind of take those glue dots and pull them and manipulate them a little bit. I think that one's going to be okay. I hear little bits falling out. This is a pretty good piece, pretty big piece. But I think it's absolutely stunning cut from the glimmer paper. So pretty. And I probably should have tucked this guy back behind there. I think I probably still can. Again, depending on where your placement is, it may look a little different. This needs to come down a tiny bit because it's coming off the top. Little bits, get those scraps out of the way. So now I'm ready to do my stamping. Bring that across with a little piece of ribbon too. I love this die. I don't know that I grabbed the right sentiment. Let's try this and see what happens. It may not be the right sentiment. I'm way off, but guess what, y'all? Stamped it on the back of it. Let's try that again. I'm just going to bring it closer to me. It's a little bit tight on there. Yeah, this one is Have a Blessed Day, and I think I used You Are a Blessing. What I may do is just cut another piece and use that other sentiment. But you get the gist of it. So then we'll bring in our Pretty in Pink ribbon. And we're just going to put a piece just across here, and those glue dots are going to help keep that ribbon down. Kind of an extra little bonus that we got using the glue dots for those die cut pieces. And we can certainly add a couple more glue dots there too. I think the train finally left, didn't it? And then I'll just redo a sentiment once the video's over. Make that look a little bit better. Add a couple more glue dots to hold that ribbon down. Across the lower section. Well, it doesn't want to come off. There we go. And then we can add our ribbon. And just kind of tweak that. You know, cut it to the size that you want. And I'll bring that sample back in so you can see how we finished that one off. So sparkly and pretty. I'll put some gems on too. Sparkle, sparkle. Alrighty. Wow, we're already up to project number 4. And this may very well be my favorite project for this class. I just think it's simple, yet it is so beautiful. Look at that, Shy Shamrock. I am not typically a green person, and I'll kind of tell you a little funny story, little story time right quick. When I was growing up, we had a lot of green in our home, and I always swore that I would not have any green in my house when I grew up, which y'all know. I have the sunroom, and it's green. It's got all my birdhouses and everything, and I love that room. But I don't think we've ever had green in the living room. It's mainly been blue or our bedroom. But we had those avocado green appliances when I was growing up. And we had variegated green carpeting and green curtains. Everything was green. So I don't think green has really ever been my favorite color. There's several people that I love that is their favorite color. But this Shy Shamrock, it has really made an impression on me. It is the most beautiful color, and I was going to share with you too. You do have 2 pieces of white, and they are 5 by 3 3/4, which is not the size I typically put on the inside of my card. But you know what? I have to keep you guys on your toes, so that's what I did, and it works just fine, right? This piece is going to mat right out here on the front. We're going to take this piece of beautiful designer series paper and put it on this little piece of cardstock to mat it up. Again, can you turn your DSP over? Sure. I think it'd be a pretty card that way too, but I was just really going for the monochromatic look on a couple of these projects. I just think that's so striking. And if you don't have these ink pads yet and you're using black ink, I think you're going to be really happy with the look that you get with the black ink on these colors. This just has a very small border, and it's not wanting to cooperate, is it? Very, very small border of the Shy Shamrock cardstock. Try to get it evened up some. It looks like maybe my paper not cut exactly right, so take a look at yours before you glue it down. You may want to trim your designer series paper just a tiny bit in the length before you glue it onto the cardstock. What I'm going to do, try to get it lined up. And my glue is drying. I'm going to try to get it lined up a little bit better. Okay, and then we're just going to glue this down to that piece of white. And I did bring it up a little bit because I really liked, oh, I need to watch the pattern of this DSP though, don't I? Yes. I really liked having room to put a couple of embellishments at the bottom. If you like that centered up, I think that's going to work just fine too. But it just was not the look I was going for. But you do what makes your heart happy. Yeah, mine's off a little bit wonky. It's still going to work. Okay, so now we're going to mat that on the card base. See, another simple layout, but it gives us a really pretty look. Glue on my table, not so good. Let me get that little glue sin off of there. I'm going to use the back of my chamois. I just don't want to mess everything up on my project. If you do that, if you use your chamois for something like that, make sure that you turn it back over and you don't end up with glue on your stamps. Okay? Sorry guys. Just want to make sure I get that glue up. And now I've set this over here. Got glue everywhere. We want to get this all lined up as best we can. Yep, I'm going to have to work on that glue right up there too. So if you ever do that, if you can see, I've got a little extra glue at the top. If you ever do that, let it dry. And then take your powder tool that you use for heat embossing. I learned this from my friend Cassandra, who is an amazing crafter. And you just tap that on that glue that has dried, because it does dry clear, but it still has some sticky, some tacky to it. Bring your powder tool and just tap it on that adhesive, and it will take that adhesive, the stickiness away. So that will really, really help. You can also use an adhesive eraser, and I think I have mine handy. I bought this, I believe, on Amazon. We had an adhesive pack at the holidays that included an adhesive eraser. You can use this as well to get rid of that extra glue. You're just going to want to make sure you let it dry first, and be super gentle when you're working around designer series paper, because if you're too aggressive with the adhesive remover, it will tear your designer series paper and even your cardstock if you're not careful. Okay, well, this card has a couple of issues, but we're still going to go ahead and go with it. And then we'll do our stamping right quick with our Shy Shamrock. It is just so pretty. I've got this stamp on the block kind of wonky, so let's clean it off. And we'll talk a little bit about when you're mounting your stamps. I always like to set my stamp down on my work surface and bring my block to it. because that way you're not distorting your stamp. Lets it go back kind of to its natural state. See how we did. I didn't do so great on that, and I don't think I have an extra one. A little bit wonky. I hate to turn it over. Okay. But you can turn it over. We will go ahead and go with that though. Now here, you could certainly use a piece of ribbon, but what I chose to do was just use a little piece of cardstock. And I like adhering that to my sentiment, because then you can get everything nice and straight. I may stamp that again before I put this card together. And then you can just trim the ends off wherever you want them. With this card, be sure to add those gems. They're so pretty. And I did, like I said, leave this where I had a little bit of room for a couple down at this end. Just thought kind of that, you know, non-symmetrical look was pretty. That's what I was going for with that one. And I'm going to work on the glue situation on that card in just a minute. True life crafting, y'all. Okay, let me move some things around again on my chamois. Clean some stamps. If you don't have a chamois, highly recommend. And this is a stamp case that we used to sell. And they may still be in the catalog. I'll have to look. I imagine they are, since we do still have the regular stamp cases. I love putting my chamois in there. Now this last project is really pretty as well. Again, very simple. It's a sympathy card using the peach pie. What do y'all think of that? Let me know. I thought it turned out very pretty. Watch out for those little bits. I usually like to get organized with everything. This has been a color that surprised me just a little bit, how much I really have enjoyed using it so far. It does have a little bit of, I don't know, a different look to it. Trying to think of the name of the color that we had a couple years ago that was similar to this. Peach. Oh, I don't remember. But, you know, I think it's similar to this, but if I were to go back and pull out a piece of that cardstock, I bet they're not close at all. That's what usually happens. In our heads, we think that they're very similar to other colors that we've had, but then they end up being very, very different. All right, we will bring in this piece. I'm trying to decide which side I'm going to use here. This is the fern embossing folder, which is one that we've had in the catalog for a while. You've seen us use it quite a bit. Lots of glue because I want those fibers to touch and adhere down on the card base. And then we've just got a piece of that pretty designer series paper. Now a little tip here, we use the thick basic white to die cut this piece to give it just a little bit more substance. And we're going to add that onto our piece of designer series paper. And we'll just use a glue dot to accomplish that. Glue dot or two. Because again, I don't adhere that down super well, but I do use a nice strong adhesive so that I know it's going to stay put. I want to get my placement on this right quick. And then we can adhere this on. You could certainly pop that up if you prefer that. Just brought this over towards the left side of the card. Just a little bit of that white border and about equal distance from top and bottom. And then I'll bring this one closer so you can see, again, that ribbon going across there, and then adding our greeting. So we can go ahead and stamp that. We'll see how I do stamping. Some days are just better than others for stamping. And it's always interesting with my equipment up above. That one looks pretty good with sympathy. I really think you could do this card with pretty much any of the in colors. Be pretty. So let's go ahead and grab our ribbon. We didn't add any ribbon on that last card, which you certainly could. And again, just coming across. Go ahead and cut that, and we can always trim it down. Oops. I think that's what I'll do. I'll just come across and we'll trim it down in just a second. Let's go ahead and put some dimensionals on here. Just all over the place with these dimensionals. I know somebody would not be happy with me. Look at that. That is not an orderly fashion in which to use those, is it? Let's go ahead and put some glue dots like we did on that other project. Hold that ribbon down just a little bit. Just a couple. Where'd he go? Just a couple. And you can kind of decide. I think here we've got just a tiny bit of that showing, and same thing on this one. Now would probably be a good time to trim this down. One moment, Oliver. You've been so good. I'm going to go with that. I could keep trimming, but I think that that would be unwise. We'll put our with sympathy. I thought that was just a beautiful sentiment, y'all. And this is a really super simple card. To me, sympathy cards are always so hard. But this is a good way to do it. Okay, you could certainly add a gem if you want to. I don't think I'm going to on this one. Let me go ahead and bring one of each of the projects back in. Give me just a second. I really like this one with the bow. Don't tell Dale. And then our happy birthday as well. Such beautiful colors. I hope you enjoy these projects. And if you don't have this collection, you can certainly do very similar layouts with something that you have in your collection. Just pull those supplies out and make something pretty. And make a couple of them so that you can keep one in your stash if you want to inspire you later on. But be sure to get some of those cards that you make in the mail, because it really can brighten somebody's day and make a difference for them. So be a difference maker, and I'll see you again soon.